Hello again, I'm Sam B. Hansen. Today I'm going to be playing the third movement from Ravel's Mother Goose suite, originally written for piano duet, published in 1910. I first got to know this piece when I was 9, and my dad found a recording by the Lebec sisters, French piano duo Cartier and Marielle Lebec, of 3 French piano duets that they've recorded, where the central theme for all of them was that of children. So there was Bizet's Jeux d'enfants, children's games, which was a series of 12 little pieces on various different toys or games of the time of when Bizet was around, such as the swing, the dolly, the rocking horse, that kind of thing. Then there was the Fauré Dolly suite, more about that later, and the Ravel, Mother Goose. And unlike some of his contemporaries, some of Ravel's contemporaries, such as Rachmaninoff, who were writing massive chords with all the fingers at their disposal, great big stretches, jumping all over the place, Ravel is much more selective with the notes that he writes. He only seems to write the notes that are necessary, and as such, every note seems to have its place in his music, which is very satisfying to play and to listen to. What that means for this piece is that although it was originally written for piano duet, his friend, Ravel's friend, Jacques Charlot, noticed actually most of the notes that he's written fit quite happily under 2 hands. And so he asked Ravel, can I arrange it for piano solo that same year, which he did, and that's the version I'm going to be playing today. Of course, there have to be some concessions here and there. So you've got 4 hands, you can be at all over the place. Even if you're only playing a few notes, if they're spaced quite a long way apart, it's better if you've got 4 hands than 2. But most of it actually fits under 2 hands without having to change anything at all, which makes it ideal as a solo piece. The following year, Ravel also orchestrated it in 1911 for a children's ballet as well. It's the piano solo version that I shall, of course, be playing for you today. There are 5 movements in the full piece based on 5 fairy tales. There's Sleeping Beauty, Little Tom Thumb, Little Homily, Empress of the Toy Mandarins, from the Green Serpent. That's the movement I'm going to play today. There are various English translations of the original French title. Another one is Little Plain Jane, Empress of the Chinese Nodding Dolls. There are 1 or 2 others as well, but that's the gist of the story. The 4th one is Beauty and the Beast, and the 5th is The Enchanted Garden. Now the 3rd movement distinguishes itself from the others by its use of the pentatonic scale. This is so called because it's got 5 notes in it, 5 notes per octave before it starts to repeat itself. And the easiest way to find that on the piano is to start at F sharp, the lowest of a group of 3 black notes on the piano, and play just the black notes on the piano. There's 5 notes, and then it starts to repeat itself as far up or down as you like. This scale is used all over the world, in music all over the world, and it always sounds okay. If I play all the black notes, just black notes, it doesn't really matter what I do. It sounds okay, somehow. I think that's because there's a complete lack of semitones. The semitone you might have mentioned, remember I mentioned in another video recently, it's the smallest gap you could have between 2 notes on the piano, at least. Sounds like that. There are none of those. The smallest distance between any 2 black notes is 2 semitones, slightly wider. And that's nice to our human ears, somehow. There is an excellent video on YouTube called Bobby McFerrin Demonstrates the Power of the Pentatonic Scale. Lasts about 3 minutes. He's at the World Science Festival in 2009, held in New York City. He is stood on the stage. He's part of a panel on stage, but for this particular segment he stands in the middle of the stage, and he's jumping around the stage to his side, one side or the other, as if there's a giant keyboard under his feet, directing the singing of the audience. And when he jumps to the audience's left, they sing a note within the pentatonic scale lower. When he jumps to their right, they sing a note higher, that kind of thing. And although he gives them the first couple of notes, they have no trouble in working out the others. There is something that our human brains just like about the pentatonic scale. And he says at the end, it doesn't matter wherever I go in the world, every audience gets it. There is something about the scale that we just like as humans, which is nice. It's also great to see him singing a counter melody over the top whilst he's directing the singing of the audience singing a different... It's very clever. Very highly recommended video. What Ravel does with the pentatonic scale is that, if you imagine the duet version with two people, although the lower player, the person playing the lower notes, has all kinds of squishy chords, jazzy chords sometimes, using both the white and the black keys, the person at the top, despite all that, only ever has to play on the black notes, just entirely pentatonic scale, despite what else is going on, and it still works. So in this solo version, what you'll see from me here is that the highest note I'm playing with my right hand should always be a black key, all the time. Little Homily, Empress of the Toy Mandarins from Ravel's Mother Goose Suite, originally for piano duet, but arranged here for piano solo by Ravel's friend Jacques Charlot in 1910. Thanks for watching today. The two things I mentioned earlier, the recording was by Katia and Marielle Labec, made by them in the 1980s of the three piano duets I was talking about earlier. There's a picture of the two of them on the front. I'm fairly sure it's of the two of them as children. It goes beautifully with the aesthetic of the whole disc. And the YouTube video was Bobby McFerrin demonstrates the power of the pentatonic scale at the World Science Festival 2009. Recommend both of those for your further enjoyment this week. Next week, which will be Friday the 10th of July 2020, we're going to have the virtual jazz trio performance that I was talking about last week. That's being put together at the moment. I'll just mention at the moment that the piece we're going to play is my own jazz arrangement of the Irish folk tune Down by the Sally Gardens. So that'll be something to look forward to, hopefully. The week after that, Friday the 17th, I'm going to be joined in reality by my partner, Riona Sachs, in a performance of the Berceuse from the aforementioned Fauré Dolly suite in its original piano duet form. She's going to play the high notes, I'm going to play the low notes. That was made famous in this country between 1950 and 1982 as the outgoing theme to that long-running BBC radio programme, children's programme, Listen with Mother, and is a beautiful piece. You can see why they chose it. It fits perfectly with that aesthetic. That's all from me today. Have a good week. Thanks once again for watching. See you again.